Call this Finance Committee meeting to order. The first item we have is assignment for request for council action. We have 21-201, amend ordinance 94311, cemetery fees. 21-202, increase PO 21-329 M&J Technologies for the police. 21-203, increase PO 21-939, Rocco Masonry and Concrete Service. 21-204 are then and now for Rudick Forensic Engineering for the Law Department. 21-205, preliminary legislation, ODOT US 42 signal timing. 21-206, purchase of treadmills for the MCRC. 21-207, MCRC logo discussion. 21-208, 2020 capital grant expenditure to Main Street lighting, Lamppost. 21-209, purchase of one 2022 Ford F-250 truck for the Parks Department. The next item we have is 19094, amend Code Chapter 145, Historic Preservation Board Building Demolition. I think, Mr. Lamb, this came from your committee, special legislation.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. We started to work on this about 2 years ago, on and off through the pandemic, and the law director worked on it pretty extensively, had some outside help, some outside legal help, and the intention of what we were aiming to do was to add to and make changes in that legislation, in the current legislation, in order to tighten up the decision-making process with regard to granting or denying applications for demolition in the historic district. And by fixing the language, it makes it a more reliable process, because the members of the Historic Preservation Board, when they do their review, need to base their decision on the language of the ordinance, and not that anybody did, but clearly not personal opinion. And by doing so with the new language, if an application is denied and it goes to appeal, the board can only look at the record of the Historic Preservation Board. So when the appeal board looks at it, they can see exactly why that application was denied. And the language is really, if you read through it, it's specific, it's clear, and it also, a lot of it's based on language from ordinances in Cincinnati, where there have been appeals in court, and they have all been upheld by the court. So in going forward, if this came out of committee with a 3 in favor vote, going forward, we should be relatively comfortable that if a decision's made by the Historic Preservation Board and they are following the guidelines as they are in the new language, and if it would go to court, we can be fairly comfortable that it would be upheld by the court. The decision would be upheld by the court. So hopefully this, the way this is written, this will serve the best interest of the community for many decades to come. It's important to keep in mind that the historic district is only 9 blocks. There is a limited number of buildings there. And to emphasize, it's an historic district. So when you buy a property in an historic district, you would probably assume that it would be some kind of a process if you wanted to tear the building down. For us, I think it's always important, and I think often we do keep in mind that the center of town, that 9 blocks of town, is not only the economic engine of the city, but it's really kind of the heart and soul of the city. You know, people see the downtown and they decide, this is where I want to move, because you can drive 1,000 miles and not find a city that is comparable to downtown, rather that's comparable to our district. The other thing that's important to understand about the language that we added is that it also protects it protects the developer or the buyer, the person who applies for the demolition, because there are cases where demolition maybe is the best answer. not demolition because, of natural causes, which is completely separate, but where maybe a building doesn't need to be saved and something better can be in its place. And so to protect the developer or the applicant, by having these guidelines, the Preservation Board is the way it's framed, they are bridled to these guidelines so that if it would go to an appeal and they haven't followed the guidelines, then the appeal would probably go the other way, and the applicant would be approved. So on balance, it protects the things I think that are near and dear to our heart, which is the historic district, but it also serves a purpose of better ensuring a fair result for an applicant or a developer. So if everybody's read it, I don't know, some of it's kind of lengthy, relatively lengthy. I'm hoping that you agree with us that this is a good way to go.
Thank you. Mr. Huber, since you were involved in this, do you have anything else to add?
There are a couple of cases decided by the Ohio Supreme Court not too long ago from Cincinnati that review demolition issues and also review some of the language in the Cincinnati ordinance that adopts a kind of balancing test where the historic preservation boards look at the cost of renovation as compared to the loss of a building that's torn down, and also as compared to what the building could be used for, which are issues historic preservation boards should be considering. The Historic Preservation Board essentially has to weigh the question and make a determination, pro or con, with respect to the demolition request. The current draft before you tightens up some of the language that the Historic Preservation Board has to consider, and it's language that's been approved by the Ohio Supreme Court in the Cincinnati case, brings our ordinance a little more up to date, makes it a little more specific. And I drafted a good part of this based upon that, redrafted it after conversations with Walter Haverfield and a couple of other law directors that we worked together in redoing the language. I think this is probably the most current supportable language that I can present to you, so at this point it'll be up to you as to whether you want to adopt it or not. In my opinion, it's a better, clearer ordinance in terms of what the Historic Preservation Board has to do in the face of these issues.
Thank you. And I mean, the ultimate question that we all struggle with, of course, when ordinances are drafted is the ability to have an ordinance that has less ambiguity in it than otherwise. I mean, we have to be able to give a direction to anybody applicant who applies and give direction to the reviewing board in how they make their decisions and what they consider in basing their decisions on the facts of each case. So I think this is helpful. I think it protects the city, as you mentioned, Mr. Lamb, and it also protects the applicant, and it provides a better roadmap for the applicant so that they know what to expect and what the decision will be based upon. So I think that's kind of what the direction we all try to achieve, rather than having an ordinance that doesn't specify any kind of direction, and it's kind of made more of a clearly subjective determination rather than with more objective criteria in the determination. So I think that's helpful. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Rose?
Thank you. One thing that it also does is gives guidance to anybody who would want to purchase a property with the thought that they're going to tear it down and replace it with something else. They have specific criteria to follow, and they'll be able to make a better decision, provided they do their due diligence before they purchase it, to, yes, I can do what I want to do, no, I can't, even before they sign any papers. So it also protects individuals in that regard.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions? Mr. Lamb?
You know, I think twice I've made a point of thanking the law director for his help because he did so much work on this, but I also want to thank Councilman Heffinger and Councilman Rose for the time they took to read through it and kind of process the changes. And then we had a pretty healthy discussion at our committee meeting, and it wasn't just a couple sentences, but it was pretty involved. So I appreciate both their input and their help in bringing it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comment?
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 19169, adopt cybersecurity incident response policy. I think that's Mr. Rose. That came from your committee?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. This is a policy, it's in, we've had it on the books for a few years for processing, but it was never really required until the recent audit from the state auditor, and so we brought it forward. This policy here spells out exactly what the city will do should there be an incident, cybersecurity incident, and the things that the city will do. And it also adds things that the employees who may have, like say, a laptop that they take home, for example, what their responsibility is and what their responsibility is with regard to any suspect emails and things like that. And there'll be, Darren will be spreading the word about it as we get this through the system. So I want to thank Kathy for her patience with this, as well as Darren Zaremba and Jim and Jessica on the work that was done on this. So I'm asking for approval.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments or questions regarding the, because I know you went through and made some modifications to it after the committee, and added a few things based upon another additional policy that was given, which is helpful. So hopefully it gives better direction of at least, and better, I guess, protection for the city from incidents of any type of breaches that we may occur. So that's a good thing. Anybody else have any questions?
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next thing we have is 21180, American Rescue Act potential project discussion. This was at our previous meeting. We discussed this in detail, and we kind of came up to some decisions, but we needed more information with specificity on certain of the items because there are dollar amounts, but I don't know if they were hard dollar amounts, if the dollar amounts increase or decrease based upon the type of project. And I don't know if there's been any more addition. Barbara's been involved in this. I mean, do you have anything else to add, Barbara?
No additions, no.
Okay. And each of the department heads went through, and I think we talked about, we have the 108 account. There's several projects that throughout the city, more specifically in Ward 1 through the 108 account. And then we have other things that occur in different departments, some of which have already commenced that need to be completed for the ventilation system in City Hall. But I think we've determined that we can probably do most of these needed improvements to the city and the various departments based upon the numbers that were presented. And I think we can move forward with that concept, keeping in mind that I don't think the money has been changed, Mr. Durham. I don't think they've changed any of the... Okay, so we're still on track to receive it in two installments, I guess you'd call it. And I think the only thing we really need to do with respect to the 108 is working with Mr. Patton to make a determination that he's already commenced with the priority list and how to do it and where the grant funds are coming, because there's additional grants on some of those that we'll be receiving to complete the 108 account. Does anybody have any more comment or discussion with respect to those projects? And I guess the only thing we need to do is, after we get this down, it sounds like we do, then we have to start putting it into ordinance form for the adoption of it based upon the various projects, because the money's going to be coming in and then we can adopt it as it goes. But this is the framework by which we would make those decisions because it lays out each of the departments and the ability to use those funds for those various projects. So anybody have anything else to add on that? So I guess what we do is just move forward with the projects that are listed from what we talked about before, and as the projects come up, we'll approve them, and then, of course, once the money comes in, some of it has, I believe. Did we already receive it? We will apply those monies to that particular project. Okay? Everybody all right with that? Okay. So I don't think we need to take any action besides just laying out how it's going to work. Okay, 21-201, amending code 94311, cemetery fees. Mr. Worley?
Thank you, Mr. President. So it's been approximately 10 years since we've changed our any fees at the cemetery with respect to internments, foundations, lot purchases, other than the new pricing structure for the columbarium wall 2 that we built a little over a year ago. And out of the budget hearing process earlier this year, you had requested that we look at these fees. So the cemetery sexton and his staff member contacted a number of funeral homes, as well as other municipally owned and privately owned cemeteries in our general area, and got their pricing, current rates for internments, lots, crypt sealing, so on and so forth. We reviewed those prices and compared them to our current pricing structure for 2021. What we found out was that we were a little low on the internment fees. So the 2022 recommendation that we took to the Cemetery Commission earlier this month and was recommended for us to proceed with included roughly $100 increase on lot fees, and internment fees. We decided to increase our cost to do an interment after 2 o'clock or before noon on Saturday by a pretty substantial amount, roughly $250, as we are seeing a pretty high number of Saturday burials, and we're relatively low compared to other cemeteries. We also increased our costs for after 12 noon on Saturday or on Sundays that would be court ordered. And basically, all we're trying to do is cover our staff time. Now that we're doing internments in-house, in order to do a full interment on a Saturday, it requires 2 people for at least 5 to 6 hours, depending on the time of the interment. So we're hoping to cover those costs. We did increase our disinterment fee. We've had several of those in the past, and that is about a 3 to 4 man operation, and it takes a good majority of a day. The one item that I did want to discuss, striking from those lot fees would be, it's ordinance number, bear with me one second, 943, regarding the special lot endowment fund. It's 943.09. It's covered in the fees under additional services. This is something that we've had in place for a really long time. It's a special lot endowment fee, and what the ordinance states is that for basically in perpetuity, we will place a winter wreath for Christmas and 1 planting for Memorial Day. We currently have 49 individuals set up on that program. The cost was $1,000, and our unencumbered balance is right around $4,000 for that. We've worked the last several years to buy artificial wreaths to help reduce the expense of having to buy those. $1,000 is quite a bargain to have a wreath and flowers every Memorial Day forever. We talked about this in great detail with the Cemetery Commission, and they didn't really make a decision on it. It was down to 2 options. We either completely do away with that additional service and continue providing wreaths and plantings as described in the current ordinance for those 49 individuals, or we increase the price substantially to hopefully, if there's anybody who is interested in it in the future, that we start increasing the revenue into that account. In the last 3 years, I believe we've had 2 people purchase. So the Cemetery Commission did approve the fees that are in front of you for recommendation. The only thing that we were questioning was the special lot endowment fee and whether or not that's something we want to continue to provide.
Well, Mr. Simpson, you're on the commission. What are your thoughts?
Yes. Well, and this came up for several reasons. Jansen has considered this for some time now, but when we were in the budget process, we were talking about putting another full-time employee. We wanted to find, through the council's suggestion, find ways to increase revenue. And this was one way, and it's not going to raise a lot of money, but it is something. And for the last 10 years, we've not raised any rates except for the new columbarium law. So I think, I know everybody on the commission agreed with the pricing structure. The perpetuity endowment fund, again, the commission didn't make a final decision, except that if we were to keep it, again, we'd have to raise it substantially. And I know that it's $1,000 now, but during the meeting, we talked of raising it up to $5,000, which seems reasonable to me. But I think that we're still under discussion plans there. And again, Jansen and James Hoyt, our sexton, has done a good job in the last few years of starting to replace the flowers and wreaths with artificial, which seems to be working out pretty good. So I respectfully ask that the council, approve these new fee structures so we can start using them at the beginning of 2022.
So when we approve the fee structure, what are we going to approve for the endowment fee again, or are we not? I mean, what's the proposal on that, since we really don't have direction on the amount?
So the amount that was on the 2022 price structure that you have in front of you was $2,000. We didn't change it from what the commission had approved, just because they wanted to see what council felt as a whole as to what we should do. I know Nino and I are both in agreement that we need to do something. We're not getting any more money in there, and it is quite cumbersome to go out and find 49 different graves, and they're predominantly older family plots that are part of this. We used to have a volunteer. You all know John Gill. He assisted us every single year with putting these out twice a year, and we now do it with our staff and make it work. My recommendation would be we at least need to increase it to $5,000 as the commission had stated.
Well, I guess the question I have is, what do other cemeteries do, did you say? I mean, when you look at something in perpetuity, how do they calculate the net present value of that? And I mean, because that's a long time, and I'm sure it's more than $5,000.
So that's a great question. I did ask the staff before I came to the meeting this evening if they had noticed when they were researching pricing structures, if they had seen this at any other community, and they did not find anything online or receive anything from any other community that we reached out to.
Well, I guess the question would be the endowment fee. Do we have to do it in perpetuity? I mean, can't we limit it in some type of form so we can base our cost structure on it? Because if you just give $5,000, 25 years from now, $5,000 may only be worth $3,000. So every year you're losing. It goes down.
Yeah, these are the exact conversations that we had a few weeks ago with the Cemetery Commission, and you are correct. It doesn't put us in a good spot.
So I guess the question is, why are we forcing the issue of doing it in perpetuity? Is there a reason?
That's just how the ordinance was written.
Mr. Lamb?
And so your question is, I guess, is in part, why are we continuing? Why are we continuing this? We are the people that have bought into this currently are locked in forever. Am I right on that?
That is correct.
Okay. And how many did you said 49?
That is correct.
And I mean, Councilman Coyne's point, and I don't know what you know, Denny, you've looked at this, more closely than I have, but it seems like it would be a program that you might want to just recommend we discontinue. Because there is no way to project out, the cost of this and the value of money, and, because people are buried forever. So this would go on.
Well, yeah, the only way you could do it is you have to put a specific number of years, and then you could probably get a closer guess of what it's going to be. But again, you'd have to calculate that, somebody would have to figure it out every year. But you're correct, maybe it's time just to discontinue that program. And, we have what we have because it's going to cost the city money in the future. No matter what we do today, you'll never get enough money to cover those costs that we're going to incur by doing this twice a year forever.
Yeah, the cemetery commission did talk about putting like a 20-year cap on it, and then you have to pay again and renew it. But that kind of presents some challenges. Obviously, you have to track that and be able to get a hold of a family relative and so on and so forth.
So it seems-
Discontinuing it would be the easiest
Yeah,
thing
it
to
seems
do.
to me like that may be the way to go. And then if there's an outcry, we always can add it back in. But again, there's the only people who are going to really want it are the people who paid for it because it's such a great deal that, it's like getting a lifetime membership to a fitness center. The only way you get out of that, the fitness center goes out of business. But I don't think the city's going out of business, so.
So Jensen, when is the last time somebody bought into this program? Do you know that?
I don't know the exact date, but I know we've had someone purchase in the last 3 years.
Okay. So 49 people, when you look at the number of graves in the cemetery, 49 is a pretty small number.
Well, the only thing I would suggest, at least on those 49, when you see the endowment fund, and I think there's only like $4,000 left in the endowment fund, as you mentioned, you'd have to put some money away and invest it to get enough money to pay for those wreaths every year so that you wouldn't have to keep putting money into it. Maybe that's what we should think about doing with the 49. And, I don't know, but maybe it's a good idea to discontinue it because there's no way we're going to be able to afford it.
Yeah, I'm in favor with that. We had all these conversations. I know Keith was involved probably 5 or 6 years ago with looking at investing it. We have no problem continuing with the 49. We can stretch those $4,000 pretty far because it's all artificial wreaths now. They're in storage. We can probably get another
really
15 years out of them, but just not continue to take any new sales on it.
What is everybody's thoughts on that? Okay with that?
I do too.
Okay.
I agree.
All right, so is there going to be a motion to approve the modifications to the cemetery fees with the exclusion of item number 3 and the additional services, the endowment fee?
I will make that motion to move forward with the new proposed fees, less the endowment, eliminating that fee.
I'll second that, and again, I want to thank Jansen, Donna Knack, and our sexton, James Hoyt, along with the Friends of the Cemetery. They've all put, and other committee members, put a lot of time and thought into this, so, again, second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 21202, increase PO 21329, MNJ Police Department. Chief Kinney.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is to increase our blanket PO for M&J Technologies. They're our IT provider.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 21203, increase PO 21939, Rocco Masonry and Concrete for the Service Department. Mr. Pacoli.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have an existing PO in the amount of $15,000. Street Department replaced several hundred feet of storm sewer on East Friendship in the 400 block, and we crossed 3 driveways, excavating and needing repaired. So we talked to 3 contractors, and Rocco Masonry was the lowest. We talked to Dennis Concrete and HSH. So at the same time, we want to get these driveways fixed and repaired before winter. So appreciate the consideration.
Are you asking for the emergency clause? Because I think winter is knocking on our door.
No, I think it'll just get approved, Keith, with respect to, because it's increasing a PO. It's my understanding it would go.
Okay.
tonight. Thank you.
Move to approve?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 21204, then and now for Rudick Forensic Engineering for the Law Department. Mr. Huber.
This bill pertains to the examination and evaluation of the standpipe at the Lindenwood Lake Dam. As council is aware, that standpipe was installed and it leaks. We had Rudick engineer examine the problem, still working on a solution that's going to be acceptable. The complication with this standpipe has to do with the fact that it's right in the dam, and digging up the standpipe is problematic because it weakens the dam where this is located, and the dam is under the jurisdiction of the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, and they don't want this dug up again if at all possible. Consequently, still working through how exactly we're going to repair this standpipe, but this is the bill for the engineer's work. He essentially outlines what exactly the problems are and makes a number of suggestions for repair.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
And,
opposed?
Mr. Huber, you put down the
With the
emergency
emergency clause?
clause?
Pardon me?
You requested the emergency clause?
I don't think I did.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you did.
Maybe that was an accident.
No, but
I hate the emergency clause.
All right, so we won't do that. So all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
If there's no emergency clause on this, I can't pay it until 30 days from when it passes.
Is that,
I'll work it out with Mr.
Yeah.
Caldwell. We'll make it work.
that should
Keith.
be okay. Okay. 21205, preliminary legislation for ODOT US 42 signal timing. Oh, Mr. Patton.
Thank you. I'm going to explain this and then request that we table this, and I'll explain why. We were approached by ODOT about potentially having them complete a corridor signal timing project on 42, basically in the historic area, a little north, a little south of the square. They identified this, rightly so, as an area of congestion. So we said, of course, we'd be interested, and they presented us this signal agreement. In talking to them within the last week, one of our concerns, this corridor is part of a larger, we call it the historic district system. I think there's 12 signals in that system. Their proposed scope only looks at the one north-south corridor, being US 42. We told them we really thought it needed to be expanded. If you just modify the timings on 42, it's probably going to have a negative effect on the east-west routes. ODOT in Ashland, the local district, agreed with us, but they had to take it to central office to request, I guess, more funding so that they can expand the scope to include the entire district. We haven't received anything back from that yet. Hopefully they'll agree to it. That'll change the scope in the agreement. So all that being said, we'd like to table this for now and come back once we hear back from ODOT.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Patton regarding the timing of the lights? Everybody feels that we need timing, better timing? Or is everybody getting through nice and easy? I don't think so. Okay, so we go to 21206, the purchase of treadmills for the MCRC. Mr. Worley?
Thank you, Mr. President. The rec center over the last several months has demoed a number of treadmills, 4 to be exact, for all of our patrons to use and us to examine ourselves and select which one would be best to proceed with purchasing. You might recall when we amended the JOA that in the past, equipment was to be split 50-50 with the schools, and that was struck out of the new JOA. So we're in dire need of replacing our treadmills. Many of them were purchased when the facility was built in 2002, so they have several 100,000 miles on them, and are showing their age. So part of our plan, Christy and I's plan with trying to get patrons back into the facility is to invest some of our carry forward money into equipment within the walls of the facility. And by going through the process of demoing a variety of different treadmills, they've really changed pretty drastically in the last several years, with the trend with smartwatches and Fitbits and all that, and connectivity to many different platforms for entertainment. So the treadmills that we have selected, our current ones are Woodways, and they are not on any sort of cooperative purchasing program or STS contract. So that essentially ruled that vendor out. As such, we tried to find comparable units because if you've been to the rec center, you'll know that most of our treadmills have slats on them, and they're very durable and they've held up very well. So fortunately, we found a company called Matrix that is part of an STS contract through Johnson Health Tech. It's a very similar unit. It doesn't have quite the longevity as a Woodway does, but it offers a 22-inch touchscreen monitor that can be fully connected to our Wi-Fi that we're in the process of getting upgraded. So as users, it improves the user experience for the treadmill. You can connect Netflix, YouTube, social media, Kindle book, everything to drastically improve the personal experience, because if you've been there, you know, really the only form of entertainment we have is the TVs, or your own music or your own device for streaming. This also gives us the ability to program in our own advertisements for programs. Any events that we're having can be streaming on the consoles when they're not in use. There is no ongoing service fee or anything through Matrix, so we feel like this is a really good option for us. We had budgeted the project for roughly $100,000. The treadmills that we're looking at are $107,700, but if you factor in the 8 units that we're looking to trade, 2 of which are out of service, it knocks the total down to $102,900. Additionally, Matrix does service a lot of YMCAs, and they have offered a contract rebate to be for 5 family memberships through a school scholarship program that we've yet to develop for underprivileged children. So we feel like that's another really good opportunity. We are requesting to use carry forward funds for this, and our plan, hopefully once these units come in, they are currently being manufactured at a pretty good rate. There's no extensive lead times or anything. We're hoping that when we get these units, we can then start to phase our equipment back into the fitness room, so we're not jockeying equipment around numerous times. These have been received very well. We got roughly 70 surveys back from patrons, all who were fairly, unanimously positive, and they're all looking forward to, having a new piece of equipment to run on. So I think this is just another, it is expensive, but I think the return on investment to get people to come back to something new and improved in the 21st century is important.
Thank you. Has Mr. Huber looked at the terms of purchase?
This contract was not sent to the law department. I did look at it. There's some terms in it that are going to have to come out. There's an indemnification clause that we can't agree to in this contract. They're advising that if the governing law should be the law of the state of Wisconsin, and that any litigation would need to take place in the state of Wisconsin. And my position has been, if you're going to do business in the state of Ohio, then the state of Ohio should be the forum for where any litigation proceeds. So there's some terms in this contract that are going to have to be changed.
Okay, understood. So any motion will have to be subject to the law director's approval. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Mr. Worley?
Yeah, I have one other change that needs to happen. The line item for the account needs to be changed to 54413 since it's a capital purchase.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. President?
Mr. Rose?
Thank you. What kind of warranty comes with this equipment?
It's a 3-year warranty, and it's a 3-year warranty.
3 year,
and,
okay.
Yeah, it's warranted for 100,000 miles, and the technician that works on them is local. So that's a very nice feature.
Okay, and expected life expectancy or anticipated life expectancy?
They say 12 to 15 years. We obviously got 20 out of our woodways, so we might have to replace the slat belts themselves, and that does extend them for another 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay.
I will make a motion then to approve this, subject to final approval of the contract by the law director and the change of the account that the money's coming out of.
And I'll second that. And again, thanks, Christie and Jansen, for your hard work.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 21207, MCRC logo discussion. Mr. Worley.
Thank you. You might recall several months ago now, we had the initial logo discussion about having the ability to create a logo that was not Medina Community Recreation Center. The name of the facility is never going to change, but we were looking to hopefully be able to simplify our logo to help facilitate marketing efforts. We did get approval from the school board and obviously council to do that. As such, we reached out to a logo and branding firm out of Worcester and designed the 3 different options that you have in front of you. We actually had 27 options and we narrowed it down through the Rec Advisory Committee. And the 3 that are in front of you, basically, it's our hope to be able to use all 3 of them for different aspects of advertising. The goal was to just have a clean theme. I know you don't have colored copies in front of you, Christy does here, but they're blue and green and dark blue. And we're looking to carry those colors into the facility as well as put it on T-shirts for our employees and banners and signs for our events. And we're really happy with how clean and neat it is and are hopefully looking for approval to begin using this. We feel like the first one that's relatively clean, that has Medina Rec, will go very well with Instagram and all that to hopefully be able to connect to more people. So we just wanted to bring it before you, and we are going to be sending it to the school board for a work session discussion as well.
Any comments on the new logo?
I like them all. And they're not in color, but they even look good in black and white. Thank you.
I agree.
So, Mrs. Hazeltine?
I'm going to be the lone holdout. I don't like them. I especially don't like the one where Medina Rec is all one word.
I love that one.
Confusing to me, but it's a matter of taste. So I'm just, anyone who hates it, I just want it known that I also did not like it. But I will not prevent you from using it.
I love the one where it's run together.
Of course you do.
That is my favorite one. And if I could see it in color, I would be even more excited.
Well, the question I have is, I mean, this is just a discussion item, so I'm not sure what kind of direction. Do you just want us to wait till the work session's over before there's formal approval, or what do you want to do?
So obviously I've never developed a logo before. This is new territory for me as well. But typically the way we've handled sponsorships and other signs in the facility, we just brought it to the finance committee for you to see it and approve it. And then we put it up in the facility. So it was my thought that this would probably follow that same process.
I'm not sure, just because you're changing the whole name structure of the recreation center, because it was adopted as the Medina Community Recreation Center. I think that's the legal name for it that we've been using or the designated name. So, Mr. Huber, what are your thoughts on this? Do we take some formal council action to recognize the modification in the name?
Kim, didn't we have to go through the recording of a logo? We used a Walker and Jock firm when we did that back then, and I think there's some formalities attendant to that, aren't there? That was my recollection.
I believe there was.
So that was just for the city logo, where we registered the logo and the tag name, but we did not do one for the rec center. But you may want to, once one is determined, you probably want to go through that trademark and copyright process.
That's my recollection also.
So I think Mr. Huber and Mr. Worley should get together and make a determination on that and pick a law firm that's going to specialize in that area to, file the necessary paperwork to trademark it, I guess, is what we're looking at, to copyright it or trademark it or whatever we have to do. Okay, does that sound fine?
Yeah, we can look into that.
Okay. All right, thanks for your information. It seems like majority of the council member likes it, only one really doesn't.
I don't really exercise that much, so
Okay,
it's fine.
21208, 2020 capital grant expenditure to Main Street lighting lamppost. Is this Mr. Patton? Or who is this? Barbara? Nino?
You want to talk about it,
Nino.
Barbara? You want me to? So
sounded
this
like
is
some
part
kinda-
of the grant. We have 28 lampposts that are in need of replacement respectively, and that's between the Huntington Bank parking lot and then the square, the Uptown Park. So this grant will cover $65,000, and the street lighting will cover the remaining of the estimated $140,000, and this will conclude our historic street light replacement program.
How many have we replaced already?
Well, we have 49, so when you look at the Huntington Bank lot, that wasn't included, so there were 49 within the historic district. We replaced 33, last count. We added 4, we would add 6 as money would come in and different grants would be applicable. So in the end of the day, we have an obligation, the law director will tell you, with respect to that parking, the agreement with Huntington Bank. Some of the lights have fallen over. We removed them, and if you go there today, they've been removed and not replaced at this point, and this will help do that.
All right. Any questions?
Got enough time to get some Christmas lights around it?
Yeah, you gonna put Christmas lights on? No, I'm just kidding.
So that's the other part. The grant helps cover the installation with respect to the wiring, the accessories, and when we do replace these lampposts, we do put an outlet because we know we love our lights around here. Yeah,
All right, that's
that's the
great.
goal.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I just wanted to point out again that everything's being done in-house as far as the installation, and that has saved us a lot of time and money. And the guys do a really great job, the crews. So, and that will be the same for these, correct, Mr. Piccoli?
They do. They've perfected it with the new bases, and I want to thank Barbara for her help on this because I know she's going back and forth to a lot of data and research and applications.
Any other questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second, including the emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 21209, the purchase of one 2022 F-250 Ford truck for the Parks Department. Mr. Worley.
Thank you, Mr. President. This truck was identified in the 2021 budgeting process, and we delayed the purchase due to the 10% cuts. The purchase is through Sourcewell, utilizing National Auto Fleet Group, which is a company that we've used in the past to purchase one vehicle for the cemetery. They have pretty large purchasing power, and their order cutoff is November 12th for a model year 2022 vehicle, and their anticipated lead time is about 7 months. So I wanted to get this in. I did request the emergency clause because of the order cutoff to hopefully not be able to have to delay this purchase much longer. The vehicle it's going to be replacing is no longer roadworthy. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second, including the emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Is there anything else to come before Finance Committee this evening? I think the only thing, just to alert everybody, I think in the next couple of weeks, we'll be having our meeting with respect to the final budgets and the discussion on the income tax allocation. So as soon as we get that information done and submit it to everybody, we'll schedule a meeting.
John,
Okay?
John,
Keith?
we need from Border Control to ask the question about the deer survey.
Oh, the deer survey. The question at the Board of Control came up regarding a deer survey that Mr. Worley was going to engage in having another deer survey done. If you recall, we did this 2 years ago, which is a helicopter review of the city. At that time, it was found that there are 570 deer in the city, and that was 2 years ago, so it may be different. The question is, do we want to spend that money to do it? Because if we just spend the money and do nothing about it, that doesn't help us. And I know Mr. Lamb has a meeting coming up to discuss alternatives to deal with the deer. We know we just can't do nothing, so the only options we have, either continue to do nothing with the deer or discuss a calling program. So, Mr. Lamb?
Jensen, what do you think? What do you think the change would be in 2 years? Or do you have no idea?
So in 2019, we were under contract with United States Department of Agricultural Animal Plant Health Inspection Service to do an aerial survey. At the time, the weather wasn't conducive for that to happen because you have to have snowpack on the ground, and we did not have it then. So they came into town and cruised about 85% of the city on the road with infrared thermal imagers, and they identified the GPS locations of majority of the deer that they had found, and basically what they determined was a good portion of our issues are in the northeast quadrant of the city. I talked to the biologists that drafted the agreement, and they had recommended that we do not do the thermal imaging survey again because we already had the data, but if we could do the helicopter survey, it would prove that the numbers were accurate that they counted while driving. But the question is, what are we going to do with that data? If we're going to work on developing a plan, I think it would be beneficial to have accurate numbers because, it's a hot button issue. There's a lot of people that want us to do something. There's a lot of people that don't want us to do anything. And the only way to solve that, in my opinion, is to have data that supports the decision that we're going to make. So having as accurate information as we can, I think would be beneficial, but it is an expense. It's a little over $5,000. We're not on the hook for the thermal imaging. If they can't do it, they can't do it, and we get that. Obviously we don't have to pay that money, but if there's not going to be any progress with doing anything, then it's probably just not a very wise expense, as Mr. Huber had indicated.
So the figure, the 570, that figure came from where and when?
All right, bear with me because I literally printed this out before the meeting.
It's fine. I've got till 7:30.
So in 2020 was when they did, March 12th of 2020 is when they did the deer count. The weather was optimal for deer movement. They did it between 1900 and 2. They counted 504 deer. It's estimated that 85% of the available area was calculated, like I mentioned before, which gives them a range estimate of 504 to 593 deer. So obviously
So
you have to-
Jansen, when you say do anything, plan to do anything, you're talking about the council authorizing a culling of the herd, correct?
Correct.
And so really, the question is, does the council have a desire to cull the herd? If they don't have a desire to cull the herd, then this specificity really isn't all that necessary, isn't that correct?
I think what's
That's correct.
important to understand, not to interrupt you, but that we're going to put this in committee, and what we intend to do in committee this time is to get some officials from other cities that have had an issue like we have to come and talk to us so that we can get really more, I guess, specific information, of how they dealt with the issue. Because our issue with the deer, and clearly they there are people that would want to deal with the issue, and there are probably equal number of people who don't. But it's important, I think, that we gather better information, and particularly from cities that have effectively, who have looked at this issue and dealt with it effectively. And so I agree with the law director. If we have no intention of doing anything, then it would be a waste of money. But my understanding is that going forward this time, we are going to look at all the options that we have, and I think once it comes out of committee, then council will have that information and be able to make their own individual decisions. So I think that it would be a good idea for $5,000. I think it would be a good idea if we got the survey so that we have that information, because it'll be an interesting discussion, and hopefully this time we'll get a lot more input that will help us make a decision help us make a good decision.
Well, I half agree with you. I disagree with you on getting another study telling us that we have deer. I think we already know the answer to that question. And I don't know if we should spend money on that. We just have to make a decision based upon knowing that we do have a deer problem, and it's very obvious. I mean, I've been here for 20-odd years, and I remember first moving in the city, I really didn't see a deer ever. And over the past 7 to 10 years, it progressively increased, and now every time you drive, you see a deer. So I think there is an issue, and I don't know if having spending $5,000 to tell us, yeah, you got a lot of deer out there. I think we know that. And I understand what you're saying, Bill, but I think we just need to come up with a decision, and if we come up with a decision based upon the numbers we already know we have at least 550 deer, let's say, throughout the city, maybe more, probably not less. We just needed to make a determination of, are we okay with that? And if we are okay with that, then we just live with the deer, and then if we need to move forward, maybe you're correct, we get a study done, because a calling process, is my understanding in talking with other cities, is not a one-year process. It's going to be a 5 to 8 year process every year, because there's just so many deer that my understanding is you don't notice an impact until 3 years later, just because the deer keep coming in from the townships, and it takes that long to do it. So, I mean,
it's in my committee, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I would recommend that for us to move forward, that we have that information.
So how does everybody feel about that? Mrs. Hazeltine?
Thank you, Mr. President. Dance and I have talked about this before. My ideal plan for the deer would be to start what they call it's birth control darting. Basically, you dart the deer with birth control. It puts a red circle on them. It lasts for, I think, approximately 3 to 5 years. So that way you can, much like the feral cats, control the population of the deer, because I know that there will be a lot of people not in favor of culling the deer. That is something, that darting process is something that the state of Ohio has not done yet. Is that correct, Mr. Worley? They're still in the experimental process of it. It hasn't been practiced yet?
It's my understanding that the state of Ohio does not do that at all.
Okay. My vision is I would like to see Medina be the first place in Ohio to do that. But I guess my question ultimately would be, anything that we choose to pursue, whether it be the birth control option or calling, would we need this information to get approval from the state if we were going to take that step and try to be the first city in Ohio that does institute that birth control method? Would we need those numbers?
I would need to talk to some representatives from the USDA to see what the process is. There's a science behind it. I'm not a wildlife biologist by any stretch of the imagination, but I do know that data helps. And a lot of what they've gathered is not only, you can't look at it as just the deer numbers, it's where they are located. and trying to figure out a management plan. Okay, so say we have 550 deer, we have a certain percentage over in this area of town, we have this amount of forest, cover, we have this topography, this is where we could do it if we're gonna do it. So it's all part of the process, but, ultimately, if we don't have a consensus on, doing a culling program or taking another step, it wouldn't really make sense to have this done. But at the same time, if we put it in committee and we make a decision on it, we're going to have to wait until the following year if we decide to get another aerial survey. So you're looking at 2023.
So it ultimately comes down to what happens in special legislation, correct?
Correct. Yeah, and the helicopter is going to be here between January 23rd and February 11th of 2022.
I would agree with Mr. Lamb that, more information is better. I agree with Mr. Huber that it kind of stinks that we have to spend that money to do it because we know we have deer. But you kind of have to have all your ducks in a row. If you're going to try to propose a solution, you have to have those metrics behind it. So I would be in favor of doing it.
Commissioner Simpson?
Thank you. Again, as most of us here on council know, that this has been an ongoing problem in our city for several years. But I also want to remind everybody on council that our current mayor, who is running unopposed again, so he's going to be our mayor for the next 4 years, has adamantly said, and he's not only our mayor, he's our safety director, that as long as he's mayor and safety director, there'll be no calling with bow or guns in the city limits of Medina. So I think that would direct us more in the line of finding whether it be something that Jess is suggesting. I know there's been other areas, and I'm not sure in the state of Ohio, where they've actually put food out in parks and poison the deer to call them. But as far as bow and guns, I don't think we're going to have that happening in the city of Medina. So that, whether we need the exact count, I do agree with you, Bill, that if we're, since they are the state of Ohio's deer, and I still say that, it should be taken out of the safety director and the mayor's hand and our hands. It should be the state of Ohio when there's a problem in any municipality, since they're the state of Ohio deer, the state of Ohio should be dealing with this, but they're not. So for us to get the permit to shorten those numbers of deer in our community, we'll have to get a permit from the state. So I would agree with you, Bill, that when the time comes, we're going to need the more current studies, even though I agree with John, it's kind of foolish spending the money when we know we've already got the problem. But to get the permit and accurately get the permit, and the $5,000 when we approached this before, I think Mr. Huber remembers, for the state of Ohio to actually come in and get the infrared lights by plane, I believe it was between $35,000 and $45,000 that they were asking for at that time. So $5,000 is kind of a bargain when you look at that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just keep that in mind about the calling. I think we're going to have to step aside from archery or guns to call the deer in the city. Thank you.
Commissioner Infantry, you have anything to add on that?
I think I'm leaning towards you, John, on this one, that if you would have said 300 deer in the city, I'd have been like, whoa, that's a lot of deer. You said 500. I thought, whoa, that's a lot of deer. If we come back at 700, I'm going to think the same thing. We need to do something about it. I understand we're talking about the possibilities of other options, and we need those numbers for that, but I don't know that it'd change anybody's opinion or anything like that. I think there might be a better use for the money in finding a way to take care of this, even if it goes towards, if we can figure out this birth control thing or whatever it may be. I don't know.
Well, so the council's clear, this was discussed this evening at Board of Control, and the issue was, Johnson was at, well, you need to study, if in fact there's a plan to do something with the deer. And when Jansen was asked, well, does the council have a plan at this point, and his response is he doesn't know. So generally the thought was, well, we should put this in front of the council as a discussion item so that there could be some decision by the council as to whether there's some confidence in terms of there being a plan, in which case $5,000 is not really a lot of money. So I think that's why this is here.
Mr. Shields?
I was going to say, so Mr. Huber, you'd like us to tell you whether, as a majority of council, we want to do something about reducing
Well,
the deer?
I didn't even have anything really to do other than saying, well, probably makes sense to have the council weigh in on that before we spend the money. That was essentially the discussion, and so that's why you're being presented with this.
And I guess I agree with Jess, that if there's a way to do it without, having to cull it with a bow or an arrow or a gun, then that's something to look into. But regardless of which way we do it, if we have to have the data to back it, we're going to have to agree that we want to do something about this. And I know I agree that we need to do something about it. So whatever that takes as far as data collection, to be allowed to do something to address this, we can't keep doing nothing because we keep hearing about it from constituents. And my gut feeling is there's more constituents that want us to do something about it than to do nothing.
Mr. Rose?
Thank you, Mr. President. To Mr. Shields' point, I've been talking to a lot of residents lately, and 4 out of 5 residents complain about the deer. That's the top complaint. We definitely have to do something. And to make sure that we make the right decision, we need as much data as possible. So I would be in favor of having some sort of survey done so we know how many and where, and we can put together. We may come up with 3 different plans. Northeast gets one section, Southwest gets another plan, and something like that. But we have to have data to make the right plan.
So, Mr. Lamb, when is your meeting again?
2024. Well, let me suggest this then. I know that the clerk has been gathering information for the committee from what other communities have done, so that we have some input. I know we want to bring officials from other cities that have done culling so that we can get that input as well, and so that we can look at all our options. So I will schedule the meeting, based on availability of Councilman Heffinger and Rose, as soon as we can get one scheduled. I think we can start that discussion then, and then, as I said, I still think that we should, as we go forward in the committee, which I don't imagine is going to take more than 1 or 2 meetings to come up with either a consensus on something, or, as we have really been in the past, frequently kind of a consensus on, I don't want to say nothing, but we really have never been able to come up with an effective way to address the issue, because I'm not totally convinced that it's weighted, to deal with the problem or to leave it be. I'm not sure that I totally agree, because I'm thinking it's a lot more equal. But be that as it may, I'll schedule the committee meeting. I'll have the information from the clerk. We'll bring some folks in that are willing from other communities so we can get that. But I'd like us to go forward with the additional count, because when you know the community is split, I think having the most credible information that we can have, particularly with numbers, is important. Will be important when we make the decision. So right. I'll schedule the meeting.
And Bill, for when the meeting occurs and we get members of the public here, and for the rest of my colleagues, the common comment that I've always had, well, a lot of other communities call the herd, but most of the communities that they brought up were within the national metro, the metro parks, and they do call the herd every year. I mean, I don't know if every park, but they do call the herd there every year. But there's a big difference, because in the national parks, they're not the state of Ohio deer, they're the national deer, so they do have a right. But to keep the numbers down and remind people that they don't have to get a permit from the national government to do it. They go in every year, but they've also, who I've talked to, said that it's not a 3 or 5 year program. They have to call the deer every year, or the numbers will just keep growing. They'll replace the ones that they kill. If they didn't do it for 2 years, the numbers would probably surpass what the numbers that they called. So, but I know that a lot of residents, when I tell them that, a calling program's not that simple, they always bring up, communities where they do call the herds, but most of them that they brought up to me have been in areas where there's national parks, so.
Right, thanks, Denny. And Council President's right. I mean, if you go forward with it, calling it, it's not a one-time.
No.
It's not a one-year thing, and then we sit back for 10 years. It's a process.
Right.
You know, and it's important also, you know, to keep in mind that we have so much park. We have more parkland per capita than any other city in the state of Ohio, and then we are surrounded by townships, so there's this influx, outflux, you know, from the parks and then from the townships as well. So, but we do have an obligation, I think, as John said, we have an obligation to address the issue, you know, and not to sit back and just,
Right.
because we know that it's going to be somewhat polarized.
And when I brought up the feelings of Mayor Hanwell, I do agree with him. No matter how much you post online, you post in the media, that there's going to be calling done, you're never going to be able to guarantee that, you know, I think Nino brought up that there's, you know, people that wake up in the middle of the night and they can't sleep, they'll go out for a walk in the parks. So, yeah, there's no way that you can guarantee and take away all the liability from the city so I do agree with the mayor with that. Thank
So,
you.
Mr. Worley, when do you need to have our answer by?
I would recommend that we table this till the next meeting in November because I don't have an answer to that question, but I'm sure 2 weeks is totally fine.
Okay. All right, provide us with that information when we have to provide you with the guidance that you need in order to do it. And Commissioner Lamb, 2024 is a long ways away, so if you can do it next month, that'll be better yet. All right, any other questions? All right, the meeting is adjourned.